Welcome to Ask a Celebrant, a conversational podcast answering your questions relating to all the commemoration and celebrations of all the chapters of your life. I'm Berni B, full life celebrant.
And I'm Dinah Liversidge. Hi everybody, and welcome to Ask a Celebrant with me, Dinah Liversidge.
And me, Berni Benton.
We're sitting in my little woodland office today, looking out at the trees and noticing the signs of autumn. I do love how nature really throws it at you, Bea.
I know. What a lovely spot you've got, by the way. I'm so happy that you invited me here to do this today. We do these recordings from all sorts of wonderful places, but it's really lovely being in your new office and watching autumn take a hold and
it's just stunning colours, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always think, living in Wales, surrounded as we are by nature, green is such a silly word, because you look at the trees and green just doesn't do it, does it?
It's like a million different greens out there, and then there's sort of the yellows, the blues and the purples and the reds, and just like a million different.
It's glorious,
colours. And doesn't it make you feel, the minute you sit in here in your office, doesn't it make you feel a sense of peace and calm?
Yes.
Just everything's just slightly fluttering and moving slightly, and yes,
I love it, actually. You're right. It does make me feel very present.
Yeah. And if you're
it's so quiet.
It must be when you're sat working and you feel a block. You must just sit up, look out of either of these two windows, because you've got them on two aspects, and just breathe.
Yeah.
And that must bring you really back into the moment.
Oh, it so does. And I was telling you, when you got here, there's a robin that's been coming into the office every day, sits on the desk, taps on the window if the bird feeder is empty. It's just amazing.
I think that shows how at peace you are with the nature around you, and how at rest your mind is, because animals know, don't they?
Yeah,
they just know.
It is incredible how close he gets, and clearly realises I'm absolutely not a threat. It's lovely.
Really nice.
But we were saying, weren't we, that the weird thing about autumn is those of us who clearly, like us, love it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because we're autumn babies. You know, we're both kind of autumn, early winter, aren't we? Maybe that's part of it. And I love the snuggling and putting on my big jumpers.
I love that moment where you get to close all the curtains early and just snuggle up with a glow of a fire. We lit it the other day, lit a log burner.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But so, although we're loving it, there are people who really are not into this time of year. And it's funny, because one of the things that seems to happen, particularly in the wedding side of our work as celebrants, is it feels to me like there's somehow this conspiracy that nobody wants to get married in the autumn. And I personally think the autumn is one of the most beautiful times to get married.
Oh my God. I don't understand why we have seasons for events other than from a money-making corporate viewpoint.
Totally.
It makes no sense to me why we should have holiday season, wedding season.
I saw proposal season.
Proposal season, that's a new thing.
I mean, honestly, a way to go to bring up a whole new brand of marketing and sell products. It's not on.
The time is right, and that can be. We have 365 days in a year, and any one of those could be the right day to propose.
Yes.
And any one of those can be the right day to get married, and especially in our climate and in our environment, where summer can be May or April or November,
or not at all,
or not, and autumn is so colourful. There is something in every moment of a year that can create a beautiful backdrop, if that's what you're thinking for your wedding or your celebration.
And actually, you know, while everybody else is believing the myth that there is a wedding season, if you're clever and you go to venues and suppliers during the non-wedding season, you're going to find they're less busy. and you might even get a better deal.
Oh, you will get a better deal, and and you can have more choice of your day. You can have a better package because there's less demand on those dates. Now is the time to start saying, "Sod the season."
Yes.
Let's just pick a day. Just pick a day.
And actually, one of my favourite ceremonies I've ever done was in Christmas jumpers, because we did a ceremony on Christmas Eve.
Oh.
And it was fantastic. And everybody wore Christmas jumpers, including the couple, two incredible guys who actually both work in textiles.
Yeah.
One they'd each made each other's jumpers.
Oh, that's a really nice
which was just exquisite. And one had somehow managed, I'm not that clever at all, somehow managed to mix knitting and crochet in a jumper.
Right.
It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, and it was glittery.
Oh.
I mean, what's not to love? A glittery, crocheted Christmas ceremony. Oh, heaven.
Sounds perfect. See, I would love the idea of doing something when there are leaves on the ground and all of the autumnal colours around me.
Oh, leaves on the ground. Now, Bernie, I'd be remiss if that didn't remind me of a certain moment.
Oh, yes. Are we talking about ultimate wedding
Are we
planner?
talking about ultimate wedding planner? Surely not. The leaves on the floor. Can I just come down on the side of the leaves?
Yeah.
I loved the leaves.
The idea was, and it's such a shame that they didn't show this, just we digress a little bit.
Please do.
What they didn't show in all the editing was the 2 hours I spent collecting 10 sacks of leaves from this beautiful ground to this thing. And it was the most peaceful and joyful 2 hours I had in the whole 4 months of recording. I was out in nature, which I love. That I got the gardener was blowing the leaves up into the air, and I was like bathing under this raining of leaves, and then we'd gathered them all up and put them in the back of a big whatever it is, truck, and I just sat on the edge and fell into it.
Oh, heaven!
But as I was doing it, the film crew were really laughing because I'd be like a billion leaves, and I'd stop and I'd go, "Oh, look at that one!" I had this little collection of twigs and leaves that I was just holding on to for dear life that were mine. But I weren't going into the thing that I just
is
held
the
on to.
artist in you, isn't it? You can't help it.
But it was really my happy and peaceful place. And I knew that particular bride loved kicking her way through autumn leaves. And she was potentially, as you enter into the wedding and you become the centre of attention, that is potentially a really stressful moment.
Yeah.
And I said, how would you feel if there were piles of leaves? You could stand at the entrance and you could just kick your way into the room through the leaves and just relieve that stress and tension, kick your way into the room. And that was kind of the plan.
That sounds so wonderful.
Yeah.
I always say in the autumn, let's go puddle jumping or leaf kicking.
Oh, puddle jumping.
I totally get that.
What couple? I mean, that's something I'd quite like to do. Can you imagine doing your ceremony and then going out, putting your wellies on, in whatever your dress is, putting your wellies on and jumping together in a puddle?
In a massive puddle. That would just be magical. See, this is the thing that often when I ask other celebrants, why do you think of the summer as the season?
Yeah.
They all come out with, well, it's the weather and we live in the UK and you've got to be mindful of. The point is, British weather is all year.
Yeah.
We haven't had seasons since the 1970s. Yeah. We just don't anymore.
We just complain that it's not seasonal for the time of year, don't we? So, oh my God, it's raining. I'm in August and it's raining.
It always rains in August.
But
we know Wimbledon has started, don't we? And it starts to pour down with rains. And yet somehow that's the season we picked for weddings because we can do them outdoors. No, just buy gorgeous umbrellas.
Yes.
And accept the fact, we do live in the UK. That's why our nature is so beautiful.
And to be honest, for photographers, not having bright sunshine
much better
makes photography so much easier. You get much more choice on where you can have your photos taken.
Yes,
and nobody's squinting.
Got the glare. Half of the guests in sunglasses because they can't see, or they've got streaky mascara because it's making their eyes water. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think we have to get rid of this myth for both sides. For the couples looking at when is the right time to have a ceremony, and for the people delivering the ceremonies.
Yes.
And that's not just the celebrants, that's the venues. You know, what is it about your venue that is beautiful during the winter?
Yeah.
I walked quite a lot last winter. John and I went walking, and the things that appear in nature that you don't notice when you're in a city, but things like snowdrops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, snowdrops when
February
all the trees
wedding. In
Wouldn't
my
that be
garden,
magical?
in my garden, and in your woodland.
In your garden.
When you go out into my little micro wedding venue, my garden,
Which, by the way, for those of you listening, Bernie's garden is absolutely gorgeous.
But you go in, there's this tiny little copse of trees, but the whole floor is snowdrops. When we moved there, we moved on the 4th of February, so they weren't there when we bought the place in October. When we moved in on the 4th of February, there was this carpet of snowdrops, and I cried.
That's amazing.
And it was just
lovely.
I
love that you and us fell in love with these places in the winter.
Yeah.
We saw ours in November.
Yeah.
Moved in the December.
Yeah. So no leaves on the trees when we saw them.
No.
Yeah, mine was a bit
so dramatic, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, one of the things we love here is how much our view changes when, as John puts it, the trees have got naked. And suddenly you can see the hill on the other side, or the valley that we couldn't see during the summer.
Yeah.
So this whole concept of seasonality, I think it goes further. You know, I think this whole idea of the seasons of our life is a bit like this too. We're all avoiding the winter of our lives, just like we avoid talking about dying.
Yeah.
There's all this anti-aging. And to me, this feels very linked. It's all the marketing again, isn't it? It's the negative focus on everything must be at its most beautiful and most perfect. And somehow summer and youth are tied together in that.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, it's so clever. It's been centuries of that. I mean, actually, that's not true, because the older we got, the wiser we got, and the more valued we were in history,
and still
in some cultures. You know, you're older, you're wiser, you're more interesting. People want to engage with you because you have more to say, you have more knowledge. You know, those are things, and dying is not a taboo subject, and we talk about aging and wisers and moving into that stage, and that, you know, third age, if you like. That's what some people will refer to it as. But why is summer beautiful and autumn not beautiful, winter not beautiful? It's just a different viewpoint. And and I think we just have to start looking at the positives. We have to just remind ourselves that what we're told is not always the reality of it, and the reason we're told it is because it creates a demand which inflates the price, which benefits a group of people. Whereas if they had a 12-month season, they would make more money anyway, and they would have less of a mad panic in the middle, because they could spread it across the entire time. I mean, personally, for me, I would love to have, rather than have 20 weddings to officiate in a 3-month period.
Oh yes.
I would rather spread them, have them over the year, and have more time for each couple. I mean, at the moment I limit how many weddings I do in the summer, because I want to give that time and attention to that couple. I don't want to be muddling up my love stories and my romance,
or looking exhausted.
I want to wallow in that couple's joy and happiness and their family, and I want to be around afterwards to reflect on it and be grateful for it and have time with it and to sit with it. And so I don't ever do back-to-backs, or even I try not to do 2 in the same week if I can. But because which means 2 things: I miss out on business, obviously, from my point of view, but couples miss out on having me as their celebrant if they want me, because I say no because I've already got one.
Yes.
And whereas if they were happy to consider all 12 of our months and all 452 of our seasons.
Yes, exactly. Because it really is.
And just go with it. You're probably going to get married indoors or under canvas, or have a even if you have an outdoor wedding in British summer,
yes,
you will probably had to create a contingency anyway.
Exactly. So don't go to the trouble of the contingency, accept it's the winter, you're going to need shelter,
yeah,
and make that part of the future.
And if you've got a marquee, sorry, my words, a marquee or a teepee or an indoor space or a shed or a hut or whatever it is you're using, that can be as beautiful and as glorious as you want it to be. And you can use amazing autumnal or winter themed things if you want.
Yeah, the foliage and the colour changes of what's going on at the moment is just breathtaking, isn't it?
I know. And what's available to you to decorate with doesn't have to be flowers.
No. Exactly.
You can make beautiful bouquets with buttons and brooches and food.
I've seen
them in felted bouquets.
Yes. Pom-poms I saw the other day. They were fabulous.
If you want all the summer colour and there isn't available in the summer, and you want, you can do it, but do it in an alternative way. And not only will you get something more sustainable, you will get something with more longevity.
Yes.
You can keep it forever.
Exactly. And probably more unique.
Yeah.
Actually, more unique, you know what I mean? More unusual.
More unusual.
Because everybody else is not doing what you've decided to do, which is to embrace the winter or the autumn and what it has to offer.
And the other thing with these things, which I love as someone who likes to do things in a more sustainable and financially manageable way without leaving you with lots of pressure, is you can, as a collective of people who are celebrating your love and joy, you can have evenings where you all make pom-poms to make the pom-pom bouquet, or all spend the year going around car boot sales collecting brooches and buttons to make button bouquets, or look at what you've got, make them out of fabrics and old scarves. Ask all your friends to gift you a scarf and make something out of and then it's really meaningful and really joyful, and you're not just all focused with all the pressure of getting everything ready that weekend because it's fresh flowers, fresh this and fresh that.
That's and fresh that. So clever, Bernie. I love that.
Build up to it. Have a whole
great idea.
Build up to it. Have a real fun time with everyone building up to it, just not you just making spreadsheets and panicking that you haven't done that and this person isn't going to turn up the day before. Have it all ready and then just turn up on the day with it and enjoy it.
And actually the big enjoyment factor as well that I think plays a very different part in autumn and winter celebrations. We have a very different type of food and even beverages during winter months. I'm instantly imagining after a winter ceremony everybody having a lovely mulled wine or a kind of Bailey's hot chocolate or yum.
They did that on one of the Ultimate Wedding Planner weddings actually. We had mulled rum because the family were Caribbean, and we had hot chocolates with marshmallows. Went outside and watched fireworks and everyone had a pumpkin with soup, and they had marshmallows in hot chocolate, and they all
Divine.
How lovely. And it's dark early on, so you can do these amazing outdoor things with lighting because it's dark already.
And things like considering having your ceremony in a dark sky zone, so that actually you look up at the stars.
Yeah. Well, who said you have to get married during the day?
Exactly.
And in the daylight. Get married in the starlight and have lots of twinkly lights and candles and flares and oh my God, there's just so much more. I think there's so much more choice.
I do too. I think once you actually explore the possibilities, and it's that typical thing where we look at what limits it, what makes it challenging, and instead of saying, well, that's all the reasons not to do it, we say, well, then how do we make that work to make it more special? So yes, it's dark at 3:00 in the afternoon, but how incredible is that?
But don't you think you could all wrap up in blankets and sit outside, and you could have a like what they call drive-in cinema experience.
Oh yes,
and have all your photos and the whole screen, and I have some old movie playing, and you're all snuggled up around a fire with a screen at the back. You could
give every guest a blanket to be wrapped up.
Yeah.
How incredible would that be?
And you've got all these, you have got patio heaters, but you can have little fire pits.
Oh yes.
Everyone sits around fire pits with their marshmallow, with their hot chocolate, with their soup and all of those lovely things. You've got the screen up there playing, I don't know, some old romantic movie.
Oh, gorgeous.
Christmas, you could have a nice...
Oh, you could have one of the Christmas movies. Die Hard.
Die Hard is the Christmas movie. Oh,
that's so cool. Isn't that the biggest debate every year? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Oh, I love that. But you really could. You're right. That would be such good fun.
Yeah.
And I also think the other thing that comes to mind for me about kind of coziness and the whole intimacy of that is we're now, thankfully, as far as I'm concerned, looking at lots more ceremonies happening in people's homes, people's own gardens, keeping them smaller. We love intimate small ceremonies, don't we?
I mean, we both have these little micro venues, don't we? But I love those ceremonies that are really just about closing it into the most intimate, most honest, most relaxed, cozy, emotionally engaging experience.
And the winter sort of lends more towards that.
Let's hunker down and have this little intimate thing in a log cabin, or a
or a cook church.
A cook church, or and
I think it's clear that both of us love the whole concept of being more open-minded about not seeing it as there is a season for weddings.
Yeah.
I also think it's pretty clear that we're both cynical is not the fair word, because actually I think we're realists.
Yeah.
That we see that the kind of marketing speak that pulls us into believing, well, if everybody else is doing it that way, maybe I should. Yeah. And you know how much I hate the word should.
Yeah.
And I guess actually, if we're brave and bold and say, hey, we're going to do our ceremony, and of course it doesn't have to be a wedding, you can make this just a celebration of your relationship.
Yeah. Well, we're big on the, we all know vow renewal, wedding, naming, funeral. But what about all the other reasons? And we talk about this every time, don't we? Gratitude, burying of a dead name, celebrating,
new
friendships.
Yeah, so many.
Bookmarks, just bookmarks in your life where you go, hey, we've done this. Now we're moving to do that. Let's celebrate how far we've got and where we're going next. Yes. Let's just take a moment, have a celebration. And that, we've both I did my starlet. Thank you very much for that. You officiated a starlet vow renewal for John and I, who are not married. So it was a vow renewal, but it wasn't renewal of vows, official vows. It was acknowledging our journey, being grateful for each other and making promises to continue to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was such a nice thing to do. But there are loads of things. Like, what about that time when your children have left home and you'll suddenly have all this you have to kind of reinvent yourself because you're not parenting anymore.
But you see, even that, you look at the way people talk about that. They call it empty nest.
Yeah.
How negative and tragic and awful. Ooh. Instead of, woohoo, empty nest. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, our daughter, Hannah, who's in her 30s now, always jokes that in the build-up to her leaving home, I was walking around singing that blooming song from Mamma Mia about slipping through my fingers.
Yeah.
And her dad was walking around the house counting down to Naked Saturdays. And then we moved to Wales, and it was like, you're not getting me naked in this weather. You've got to be kidding.
Yeah. But he just cuts more logs, though, doesn't he?
Exactly. Just make the fire bigger. That's all.
There's always a workaround, guys.
Always
a workaround. I think you have to look at pick a day, and now, as we said at the beginning, if you start doing it in the next year or two before everyone realizes that there are 12 months in the year and not just 4, you will get a better deal. You will get something more affordable. You'll get more choice of all the things you want, which caterers you have, which, if you want caterers, which florist you have, which cake maker you have, which celebrant you have.
Because suddenly their diary isn't full.
You will get a lot more choice and a lot more freedom of your day and your venue and all of those things. So take advantage in the next year or two and start a trend. A trend that there is no trend and there is no time.
And there is no season.
There is no season. There is no trend. It's like saying, winter is the time to hibernate. And I'm feeling quite hibernatey at the moment, but in a nice way, in a snuggly up.
Got my big woolly jumpers out and everything. It's that cozying in, isn't it?
In that kind of like getting everything straight, regrouping type way. Doing my indoor jobs, making everything nice and together, and gathering logs and picking up my favourite leaves.
Oh yes.
I went to London. I have to tell you this. I went to London after we filmed last year, Ultimate Wedding Planner. Sorry to keep dropping them in, but it's still very relevant in my head. But I went to meet Toby. And a couple of the other people who were in it, and we're walking around London, and we're going through Finsbury Circus, and Finsbury Circus is full of plane trees. And plane leaves are absolutely huge and gorgeous. Enormous. And I might walk around, and I'm doing that, and every now and again there would be the leaf that I had to have. And we got to where we were going to where he works, which is very posh, and which is also very lovely, just outside Liverpool Street Station. I walk in, I've got a handful of brown, red, yellow leaves. I am desperate to keep safe to bring back to my house, and which I still sat a year later on the computer in my office.
Amazing.
But just they just bring you joy. Like you pick up an acorn, you just catch your eye. You go on the beach in the summer. I never come home without some stone or
pebble or piece of glass that's been
a bit of smooth glass or a shell or it was really fun one year just celebrating that. John and I were on the beach and we came home and we collected our treasure. We both had a box of treasure, and mine were beautiful smooth pebbles in lovely colours and lovely perfect shells. He'd got a Barbie with one leg. He'd got a rusty nail.
Oh God. That's so perfect.
Like really those things like his treasure and my treasure competing, but we had this treasure display for ages. It was really
totally different treasure, but just as important. Gorgeous.
And it was just really lovely. And
well, as always, this has been an incredible joy. I think we started with the seasons. We've covered, as we do, many things. And I always love talking.
Always.
And we are heading off in about a week's time to a conference together. And we're going to record our next episode en route.
So there'll be car and road noise.
Obviously, Bernie will be concentrating on the road. If it gets too silly, we'll pull over, I promise. But I really look forward to the journey together.
That's going to be great. Oh God, who knows what we'll be talking about, because we never know what we're going to be talking about, do we? Look where it goes. I love it. So yes, ask a celebrant.
Join us next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Ask a Celebrant is unscripted, and we base it on the questions we receive from our clients and you, our listeners. We'd love to hear from you. Do join the conversation.
See you next month.